All right. Welcome again. Thank you, everyone, for making the time to attend this webinar. My name is Adnan Aqil. I'm a senior management consultant with Merck Training and Consulting, and I'm pleased to have you all today with me explaining and discussing this amazing feature in Excel. It's all about data validation. So, what we'll be covering in this webinar is the following. First of all, the webinar duration would be 30 minutes max, followed by 15 minutes of questions and answers. This webinar is recorded and the recording will be published on our website, www.merck.com. We have a variety of webinars on our website, and you are invited to check our webinars. And we have also a couple of webinars on finance, accounting, and other important topics. The webinar Excel file that I'll be using throughout will be shared with you at the end of the webinar, as well as I will share it right away as well. If you would like to download it and you would like to follow through, you are more than welcome. So now in the chat, I have posted the G Drive that has the Excel file that I'll be using, as well as this short presentation that you are seeing here, basically. Please, if you have any question, please keep your questions till the end so I can address them one by one. All right. Now, data validation. What is exactly data validation? It's an Excel feature that allows you to control the type of data entered into a worksheet. So when we open an Excel file, basically an Excel worksheet, you can basically do anything you like in that in terms of what you can insert. You can insert text, you can insert numbers, you can insert formulas, you can insert characters. So basically, data validation is a feature that would allow you to control what you can or other users basically can input or insert in these specific cells. Now, there are different, I would say, types of data validation. We have, first of all, any value. So this is like the generic default setting of any Excel file or any Excel cells. It would allow you to insert any value. And this is basically what we would like to change using the data validation feature. Now, we can use the data validation to restrict a whole number. Whole number means a number that has no decimals, or a number with a decimal. It could be a list. This is a very popular feature of the data validation, having like a drop-down list. We will see together how this can be featured and utilized. Also, we can mandate a date, a time, a specific text length, and the final one, custom. Basically, this is anything that you would like to customize in terms of rules. This is like literally where we see like sky is the limit. So we are not limited to these like 4 or 6 rules, whole number, decimal, so on and so forth. If you would like to go a bit more exotic, advanced, basically you can utilize the custom feature, and I will give you a few examples on the custom as well. All right. I'm going to share again the link to the file. So if anybody would like to download and follow through, you can do the same. Here you go. All right. So this is the Excel file we'll be using to explain the data validation feature. Now I'll be going through it one by one. So here, starting with the whole number rule. For example, I would like to insert a project number that ranges between 1,000 and 1,200. So basically, this is my data validation criteria that I would like to build. And to build this criteria, I'm going to use the data validation rule that is called a whole number. So if you look here at the green cells where already I have created this rule just for demonstration purposes. Now I have created a rule to accept whole numbers starting from 1,000 and ending with 1,200. So if I try here inserting any number within this range, for example, 1,100, it would accept it. If I try to go a bit lower than the lower limit, for example, 999, it will not accept it. Basically, immediately it validates the data entry that the user is basically trying to insert into a specific cell. And immediately, if whatever is entered is in correspondence or it's matching as per the data validation rule created, it will accept it. Otherwise, you will be prompted with this Excel error message that this value doesn't match the data validation restrictions defined for the cell. You have mainly two options: either you retry or you cancel. So if I retry inserting, for example, 1,120, it is accepted since this item or this entry is within the defined rule. So let me show you how to create, first of all, like a whole number rule. Number one, or step number one, basically in creating any data validation, you have to select the cells that you would like to create the data validation rules for. So I'm going to select these white cells under the project number. And the data validation is part of the data menu in Excel. And here it's part of the data tools. And from here, I can launch the data validation. Once I launch the data validation, this is the screen that I will be receiving. It will ask me immediately what you would like to allow in these cells. The default setting is any value, and this is the regular thing in Excel. Clicking on this drop-down arrow, it will show me all the built-in rules that we have just explained briefly: a whole number, a decimal, a list, date, time, text, length, or a custom. So my project number is a whole number. I need to select a whole number as a rule. And then I need to be more specific. What is the whole number? Is it between two numbers? It could be greater than a number, lesser than a number. So in my situation, it would be between. And now I need to define the minimum and the maximum. The minimum in this situation is 1,000, and the maximum is 1,200. I'm done with creating this rule. I just need to click OK for Excel to take and accept this rule. Now the rule is already inserted in these cells from A5 to A11. I can try it out. If I insert here, for example, the minimum, it will accept. The max, definitely it will. Anything in between will be accepted. If I insert, for example, 1,300, it is not accepted. All right? It is not accepted. Now, okay, so basically, why do I need to create these data validation rules? I can think of two main situations. Number one, that I have a file, I have a template that I'm using on regular basis. I just need to create these rules to make sure that I'm not inserting or inputting anything that doesn't make sense, just to make sure that the file would be error-free, and that would obviously improve my work efficiency. The other scenario, which is a very common one, For example, I work in a function that basically I have a template that I have created or I'm using. And this template I share with other colleagues in other teams or departments for them to provide me with data. And to make sure that they don't provide me with wrong data, before I share with them the template, I would create these data validation rules. And for these data validation rules, basically, they have to comply with. And once I receive the data, I will be 100% sure that it has no mistakes. Otherwise, if I didn't create the data validation rules, I receive files, I need to spend some time checking the accuracy of the data and then start chasing them if there is something wrong that, come on, you have to provide me with the correct information. And imagine that if you have deadlines, you need to do some reports. Obviously, like you will not be in a very good situation. Now, talking about the second one, which is a decimal. Now, I need to fill here, for example, the project completion rate, which could range from anywhere from 0 to 100%. So I would like the users to provide me with a ratio that is a decimal that falls between 0 to 100%. For example, here already I have built the rule. If I insert, for example, 90, it would accept. If I insert, for example, 40.33, it will accept. If I insert any number above 100%, let's say I put 200, logically speaking, it will not accept. Now, how do we create this rule? Again, I need to select the cells that I need to insert the rule in, go into data, launch the data validation. And here, as part of the rule itself, I need to select a decimal. I would like to allow decimals. Now, again, I need to be more specific. Decimals more than, less than, between. In my case, between. The minimum is 0. Actually, and the maximum will be 1. So 0 to 1, anything in between will be accepted. Okay. Now already these cells, in home, I would like to convert them into a percentage. So if I go into formatting cells, this would be a percentage, and I can, for example, decide on the number of decimal places. 2 is fine. All right, okay. Now, coming here, if I insert, for example, 5, it will accept it. If I insert 50, that is fine. If I want to, for example, put 33.33, that is perfectly fine. You cannot go exceeding the 100%. So if I put 101, this is not accepted as per the rule that I have created. Okay. Moving to the list. This is a very popular feature. I would like to use a list for locations, or basically provide my users with a list to select from. Now, the list basically contains Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Riyadh, Muscat, and Kuwait. So once the user comes to the cell, they will be prompted with this drop-down arrow. Clicking on the drop-down arrow immediately will give you a list of options to select from. So for example, here I would like to select Riyadh, for instance, or Abu Dhabi, for example. How do we create a list? Now, if you'd like to create a list, preferably, you should have a list already created somewhere. So for example, here I have created the list. This could be in the same file, or in the same sheet, or a different sheet. That's perfectly fine. So starting by selecting the cells, then going to activate or launch the data validation. From here, I'm going to select a list. Immediately, Excel will tell me or ask me, where is the source of the list? Now here in the source, I have two options. Either I type the the items one by one with a comma separator, or easier, I have it already placed, so I can go with the mouse itself, highlight the list location here. It's from C17 to C21. Okay, now you would realize immediately the list is created and I can immediately select any of the items inserted in the list. Okay, having a list, would it allow me to type anything rather than selecting? Let's try. If I come here, for example, I type Dubai. Yes, it is accepted because Dubai is part of the defined list items. If I, for example, try inserting Sharjah, this will not be allowed because simply Sharjah is not part of the predefined list items. Moving to the period rule. Now here, basically, it's for a date. I would like to validate anything that should be inserted, should range between 1st Jan 23 up to 30th June 23. So here I start with data validation, selecting a date, start date, end date. So start date is 1st Jan 2023 and ending on 30th June 2023. I can try it out. If I put 1st Jan 2023, accepted. 30th June 2023, accepted. If I try 1st July 2023, it's not accepted. Same thing applies for time. For example, I have a column or I have a sheet that I'm logging basically the employee's arrival time. That should be anywhere between 7 and 9 a.m. So this is the thing that I would like to try it out. For example, it's created here. If I insert, for example, 8, it is accepted. If I put 9:01, it is not accepted. How this rule is created? Start by selecting the cells that you would like to insert the rule into, launch data validation, and from here you would select the time itself. I would like it to be between starting time 7 and ending time is 9. Okay. So now in these cells, you need to make sure that they are formatted as a time. And basically, through the format cell, you can specify what time convention or time format you would like to follow. Here I'm following, for example, the PM, AM. So if I insert here, for example, 8, it will be considered 8 a.m. accepted, 9 accepted. If I try to put 10, it will not be accepted. Okay, now moving to the text length. So I would like to insert the contract number, which must be a 6-digit entry. So here I'm going to apply the text length. So here it's already applied. If I put any 6 digits, it will be accepted. There is no harm being a combination of characters, letters, and numbers. It could be, for example, CN, contract number, then, for example, 1578, it will be accepted. If I put anything less or more than 6, it will not be accepted. How is this created? Again, start by selecting the cells, going into data, then data validation. This is about a text length. Now, again, you have multiple options to select from. In my situation, it needs to equal number of, or the length or the number of characters or digits is basically 6. Now, if I insert any 6 digits, it will be accepted. Letters, numbers, accepted. For example, any characters, accepted, as long as in total they are 6 digits. Now, before going into a bit of the advanced data validation, which is the custom, let me explain one feature here. For example, under the project number, I have already created the rule. And this rule, basically, let me go again and check it. So it's a whole number between 1,000 and 1,200. If you go into here, the input message. Now, this input message is basically an automatic pop-up message that will pop up to the user once the user selects that cell. So it will serve as a guidance, what needs to be inserted in which cell. So simply I can mention here, this is a controlled input, and inserting, please input the project number between 1,000 up to 1,200 dots. Okay. Now, once the user comes to any of these cells, immediately you realize this comment or this message would pop up automatically, and it will save time and it will give a proper guidance to the user. Now, in this situation, if the user inserts anything that is not within the validation criteria, it is not accepted. Now, in certain situations, yes, like the entry needs to be between the minimum and the maximum, but yeah, there might be a chance that for a reason, it should accept, for example, 14 or 1,500. So we can control the way the data validation works, whether it is like a true or false, or what we call like a black or white situation. If it is white, accepted, black, no, sorry, or it could have a gray option. So if you would like to give a gray option, I'll show you what to do. Highlight the cells, launch the data validation. Here under the error alert, there are the style of the data validation or the style of the error. So basically, by default, it will show as a stop. Stop, it will not accept anything unless it is in consistency with the rule that is already built in the cell. If you would like to give a bit of flexibility and to accept any gray options, this should be, let me make it first stop, and so you can realize the difference. If I insert anything here that is not valid, immediately value is not valid, you don't have an option to continue or accept, retry or cancel. If I change the rule from a stop style to warning or info, both of them will give more or less the same result. Let me make it as a warning. Now, coming here, inserting this value, obviously it is not valid. Now the message I will get is basically a different one. This value doesn't match the data validation restriction defined for this cell. Would you like to continue? So yes, if you are quite sure that, yeah, this is the right entry, you just hit on yes and Excel will take it. So again, this is a good one in certain situations, depending on whether you would like to accept any exceptions or not. Now, example, you have created a template, shared it with some colleagues or departments with the warning option. This is the one that we have received back from them. They should provide you with project numbers for different locations ranging from 1,000 to 1,200. Since you have allowed a warning option, which means there could be some gray values. Now, how can you quickly basically figure out where are the gray options or the gray entries? Simply, you would go into data validation. rather than hitting on the data validation itself, click on the right drop down arrow next to it. Here you will have a second option as circle invalid data. Once you hit this one, what happened? Immediately, all the invalid ones, all the gray ones are circled basically for your attention. Okay. Now, if you'd like to remove these circles, you have two options. Either you would save the file, or you would go in the same place, and the last option, clear the validation circles. Validation circles will be removed or cleared. All right. Now, the last one is the custom. Now, if you're not satisfied with these built-in rules, these 6 rules, if you want something more advanced, more exotic, you have no option but to use the custom option. Under the custom option, automatically Excel will ask you, what is the formula that you would like to use to build this data validation rule? Talking about formulas, in Microsoft Excel, there are more than 300 different formulas, meaning literally sky is the limit. You can create any type of data validation rules you can think of. Obviously, using different Excel basically formulas, or I would say formulas. And of course, the more knowledgeable, the more experienced in Excel, the easier it will be for you. Let me share with you 2 examples here. Number 1, I would like somebody to insert the student ID numbers here, but do not accept duplication. So if the student ID is already input, it should not be allowed to be input in a second cell or to be duplicated. Example, student number 100 is already inserted, 105 inserted. If I try to repeat number 100, it will not allow me. All right. Now, how do we create this rule? This rule is created using a formula called COUNTIF. And this is the logic, and this is the formula how this is created. All right. Let me show you how this works basically. So the formula that we need to insert inside the custom is as follows: equal count if. It will ask me about the range. Where is the range that you would like to evaluate and do the count in? This is my range. This is only for the example. Next, we will use this range. But just to show you, this is the range from G12 to G15. I need to lock the reference of the range using the $sign. This is done through pressing F4. It is already locked. Then comma. It will ask me about the criteria. What is the criteria you would like to take? I'll select the first cell, this one. Close the bracket and click enter. Now, what will happen? It is going to count how many times cell G12 is present or repeated in this range. Now, in order to use the COUNTIF to limit or to stop any duplications, there is a small tweak required. At the end of the formula, I need to insert equal 1, which means G12 should not be repeated in this range more than once. And by this, we will disallow any duplicate values. If I click enter, it will give me now a true. Rather than giving me 1, it will give me a true, because it's like I put a condition. And now it's saying, yeah, the condition is true and it is met. All right. Okay, let's build it together here in these cells. Please start by highlighting these cells. Next, data launch, data validation. Okay, if you get this, that's fine. Click yes. And I will go to stop. Going into the setting, it must be a custom. Now, custom it's asking me about a formula. I need to start with equal. So sorry, custom here. Equal, and then I type the formula, basically count if, and I open a bracket. I'm going to select the range, which is from G5 to G11. This range must be locked with a $sign. So pressing F4 will lock the range. This is the range, comma. What is the criteria? I need to select the first cell in the range, which is G5. Here, no need for $sign. Make sure you don't lock the cell reference. Close the bracket. Now don't forget equal 1. And then click OK. We can try it out. Student ID 58, 60, 78. If I try to put 58 again, it will not accept. Now, obviously, this works for any entry, not necessary numbers. If I insert here Dubai, then Riyadh. Try repeating Dubai, it will not accept. All right. The last example is a bit more advanced. I want to insert here student numbers. However, the student number should start with 4 letters, STID, standing for student ID, and then ends with 4 numbers. Okay, so here, for example, if I put STID, then 5588, it will be accepted. If I put STD, any number, it will not accept. So I have multiple conditions. The condition in total, first 4 letters or characters are STID. What comes after from letter or digit 5 or character 5 up to character 8 must be numbers. In total must be 8 characters. So what I'm going to use here, it's a combination of multiple rules. I'm going to explain it one by one. First of all, since I have multiple rules, it must be 8 characters, starting with STID, ending with 4 letters. To allow me applying more than one rule, I need to use the AND function. This will allow me to select or insert multiple rules or multiple Excel formulas. Now, to decide that the first 4 characters are STID, this is done through the left function. Left will evaluate a text or a cell in value from the left-hand side moving to the right-hand side. So the formula, as you see here, starts with AND. Then I start with the left. I need to select the cell that I'm evaluating, in this case H12, comma 4 means the 4 first characters from this cell from the left-hand side to the right-hand side should equal STID. Since this is a text, it must fall between double quote before and after. This is the first rule. And then my second rule, the last 4 digits must be a number. So how do I get this? Like the left, I'm going to use the opposite, which is the right. So I'm asking Excel, take the right 4 characters from this cell, H12. Now, these cells, these characters are extracted from STID number. Anything that you extract from this, Excel will not see it as a number, it will see it as a text, because STID, then a number is by default is a text treated in Excel. It's not treated as a number. But I want Excel to see it as a number. That's why after creating or extracting it, I use the value formula, which will convert any number from a text format to a number format. Then I use isNumber for Excel to evaluate it is the last 4 digits a number or not? Meaning they could contain a character or they could contain a letter. In this case, they will fail the rule. So that's why I am basically combining the right to extract, value to convert into a number, and is number to check the logic. Is it a real number or not? The last rule is whatever I insert must have 8 characters, no less, no more. This is done through the len. Len stands for length. So the last one, len of this cell equals 8, means it should equal 8 characters. Okay. Now, basically, to build it, we can do the following. Now, in this situation, if the formula is a bit complex or long in nature, I would rather build the formula outside the data validation rule, test it. Once it's okay, it's working perfectly, then I can copy it, paste it inside the data validation rule rather than building it there. So basically, my formula will be this one, but this one basically is testing this cell. The only thing I need to change to have it test this cell. So rather than H12, I will make it H5. I'll just make it H5. So I'll come to this cell. Whenever I see H12, I just make this 5. And this will be 5. And this will be 5 as well. Okay, here clicking OK. Now this became false. Why? Because the H5 is an empty cell. That's fine, no worries. Now I'll come to this rule, highlight, copy. Then I'm ready now to highlight these cells, launch a data validation, select a custom, and here just paste, Control V, paste the formula, and I am done. Now I can test it. If I insert STID 1, 2, 3, 4, just this. Left H5. Here I forgot the H. It's my mistake. This needs to be H. And this needs to be H as well. Okay. Now I can copy. Come back here. Data validation. I'll just replace this. Delete whatever is there. And replace it with the correct formula. Okay. STID 87. It is accepted. If I put STIS, for example, 1122, not accepted. So simply it is going to just apply the logic or the formula that we have created. And this is the formula. Yes, it's a bit long. It could be a bit complex, but this is just to show you in data validation custom, literally sky is the limit. You can apply any sort of formulas to just create advanced data validation rules. So with this, I come to the end of my webinar. You are more than welcome. Please, if you have any questions, please go ahead. Any questions? Now, this file, after I have worked on, again, I'm going to place it into the Google Drive. I will share again now the Google Drive link. So basically, everybody has it. Again, like I have, I have a passion for Excel, like so many others. Learning Excel, Excel basically is a great tool, and every now and then they launch a new version with the new features. So that will make our life easier as professionals. For example, a new feature came out a few years ago, XLOOKUP. This is also an amazing one. I will be having another webinar on XLOOKUP soon. And yeah, I urge everyone to keep basically learning and improving their Excel skills. So thank you again. All right.
Merck.com